So you want to learn how to fly the jets. I'd be surprised if there's more than a few of you that actually fit that statement, especially given how weak the jets seem to be upon first impression. The reality though is that in the right hands, these vehicles are some of the strongest on the battlefield. Will you get high kill counts? No, probably not. You could probably get more kills than a Jeep. In this game, the jets serve a much greater purpose as they're absolute nightmares for the enemy vehicles. So just like any vehicle, you have two main objectives in the jet. You want to get kills and you want to survive. A dead jet is a useless jet, and without proper technique, you will find it extremely difficult to get any kills. In this video, we're going to be covering loadouts, anti-ground techniques, anti-air techniques, dogfighting, survival, and all the important settings to fly. So getting started with the killing side of things, let's take a look at the loadouts. I use the same loadout for both the F-35 and the Su-57, using the 30mm cannon, anti-ground missiles, and repair. Currently, the F-35 cannot equip the instant repair, but this is a confirmed fix in a coming patch. I use the 30mm because it deals damage to tanks. Not only that, but it does much more damage to air vehicles, and the only drawback is that it has a slower velocity and does much less damage to infantry. The velocity can be accounted for with practice, and even if you use a 25mm cannon, it is extremely difficult to kill infantry without using the F-35's VTOL. The anti-ground missiles, or AGMs, will give you the ability to kill ground vehicles. Both other options are anti-air missiles, and in my opinion are not necessary as long as you can aim the 30mm. Now finally, the instant repair is self-explanatory. It removes mobility hits and it gives you a small health boost. Now for attacking the grounds, the AGMs are your best friend. You'll need a maximum of 3 AGMs to kill tanks, wildcats and bolts. While you can technically kill a tank in a single pass by hitting all your cannons and then hitting 2 AGMs, the chance of doing this is extremely low. The most effective way to kill any of these vehicles is to come in the first pass with the 30mm cannons and a single AGM. Then you loop straight back around and go for a double AGM hit. These missiles are fire and forget, so as soon as it's launched, pull out of the strafe. This is the most effective technique because they won't really repair after taking a single hit. Very rarely happens unless they know what's going on. So you hit them once, they don't really stress out at all. You come back around, you hit them twice, and they have no chance to react. Now, the rest of the vehicles in the game are all 2-hit kills, so you can just go straight out, hit both AGMs in one pass and kill them that way. In my gameplay, you'll see me use a generous amount of 30mm as well. I just do this as an insurance policy to make sure the tank dies regardless of an auto repair. Now for killing aircraft, you're most effective preying on the transport vehicles. Against both the Hind and the Condor, you usually need 2 passes. Try to attack them from above so the gunners are useless, and never challenge them from below. The attack helicopters are also great targets, but they can be deadly if used correctly. If you aim extremely well, you can kill them in a single strafe of 30mm. Once again, top-down attacks are king here, and make sure they do not reach the height ceiling. In this game, the jets and helicopters have the same height ceiling. If an attack helicopter sits at the skybox and has heat seekers, it'll pretty much always beat the jet. The same issue was in Battlefield 3, and it results in boring skybox hover gameplay. Finally, the Nightbird is also killable, but it's pretty hard to hit. And if it's flown by a good player, it can be extremely deadly. For the most part, I won't target Nightbirds unless they're visibly damaged or fighting a teammate. Dogfighting is another huge aspect of flying, and it deserves its own section. Battlefield dogfights boil down to who can turn in the most efficient way to reach their opponent. They often require a lot of prediction and awareness to understand the opponent's move and how to counter it. In this game, the best way to do this is to usually use sound, as the radar isn't very useful and rear cam stops the jet from turning. As for turning faster, nobody has discovered an optimal turning speed like the previous titles. This video by Raindrop shows that you can turn faster by tapping the afterburner. Personally, I do this a bit, and combined with holding it down when my jet feels slow, it feels pretty good. If a perfect speed or technique is discovered, I'll be sure to tell you guys, but for now it's more of a feeling thing. Another important aspect is the F-35 versus Su-57 balance. Currently the Su-57 turns much faster than the F-35. It'll pretty much always win in a turn fight, and winning in the F-35 often requires VTOL maneuvers. I hope DICE can make both jets equal, as currently the Su-57 is the best jet and it's not even close. Now for survival, this pretty much involves taking all the stuff we just talked about and using it to deal with counters. The biggest threats to the jets are enemy jets, attack helicopters, and to a small extent the Wildcat AAs. So when starting a game, I always like to take a look at the enemy spawn and see if they spawned any jets. Currently you can choose if you want to have a jet or an attack helicopter, so often they will just choose a bunch of attack helicopters, but sometimes they will spawn jets. In this case, you want to go straight for the jets and make sure they die. Now, once you've killed the enemy jets, you want to go straight for the enemy attack helicopters. Make sure they don't reach the skybox, otherwise they'll easily kill you. If the heli does reach the skybox, you can try and bait him down by flying really low. If he decides to stay up there, you just have to pray that you don't miss a bullet and your flares actually work when you're strafing it. Usually this does mean death for you and the jet though. Another way of dealing it is just a jet rammer. Sometimes you'll survive, sometimes you won't. Again, in this situation, it is very rough to deal with that attack helicopter, so sometimes desperate tactics are needed. In this game, the anti-air wildcats are quite easy to deal with. They cannot look vertically upwards, so using top-down attacks with the AGM strategy usually covers you pretty well. Now, the only other threat to your survival are the infantry-based attacks, such as stingers and soft lambs. You pretty much only want to strafe if you have your flares up and exit with high speed. Now, these counters are much more effective against helis than jets. You should pretty much never die to either of those counters, and I think I'm more likely to die to a recoilless shot than a stinger. Now, if you're being focused a lot, you can also try to bait the enemy towards your team. But this rarely works, and I don't recommend trusting random teammates as they usually let you down. Perhaps when this game ages a bit and people figure it out more, this will change. Alright, so here in the main menu, and I'm going to show you guys all the settings that actually matter for flying. I'll also go over every single page of my settings, so if you want to stop and copy it, you can, but I'm not going to spend too much time on stuff that doesn't matter. So I'll go options here. This stuff doesn't really matter really. Copy it if you want. Display. Doesn't really matter too much. I'd recommend using max FOV though. And setting this to off in the vehicles gives you more zoom. Especially the air vehicles. I don't think it matters for land vehicles, but as I said, air vehicle zoom, if you run this on, it actually zooms out, but if you run it off, you actually get zoom when you right click. So I'd recommend using that. Brightness is important too. Just whatever you need. And that's my graphic settings there. Not too much important. Now HUD general settings, I'd turn off HUD motion myself. And I've just made these more vibrant. I'm not going to click on the colors, but they are just more vibrant versions of the default ones. If I click on it, it'll probably mess it up knowing this game. Now the crosshair doesn't really matter too much. You can copy it if you want, but I would just recommend turning this off, as if you have it on, it gives you this weird box hit marker. If you have it off, it's actually going to be a regular cross hit marker. Minimap, I run this on 0%. I even find on 0% it's still not transparent enough for my liking, but that just does the trick for me. Also, just maxing out air vehicle distance. Good thing to do. Now sound, I am playing with a few different settings. For air vehicles, I find that running, speakers with surrounds, that feels the best to me. It just helps with dogfighting. You want to have the best sound experience so you can hear with the jets flying. This is all up to you, just use whatever works for you. Everyone has different headphones, but that's what I'm going with right now. This is just whatever. Scroll through this, shouldn't matter too much. Again, I don't play controller, so I'll just scroll through it quickly. Now for vehicles, you want to max out vehicle sensitivity even if you're on mouse and keyboard in the controller settings. And then I like to go down and max my aircraft control sensitivity as well here. Apparently this makes a difference. I'm not sure if it does, but I think it does. And in the aiming settings, just make sure it's the same as whatever you use on mouse and keyboard. For me, it's 0% coefficient with vehicle aiming on. And now controller tuning. I've heard some of these things actually fix your mouse inputs, so I've done those. Copy them if you want. The important stuff is here in mouse and keyboard. Infantry stuff real quick, just in case anyone wants it. Not going to spend much time on it. Now for vehicles, I run 6% in game on 1600 DPI. I use invert look. Well, I'm supposed to. Not sure why not. There it is, invert look. I use that. And this is all pretty much default, I believe. Copy it if you want. I'll let you know what matters. This matters right here. It affects your vertical sensitivity. It doesn't affect your rudders at all. Pretty much whatever the mouse does, this affects. And I use uniform vehicle aiming on 0% coefficient because that's mathematically the correct value. You can use 133. Just try it out if you want. And I turn this off. I'm not sure what it does. Gonna go quick through these because I don't really know what most of them do. Crosshair projection, I like to turn it off. Motion blur 0%. Subtitles, whatever. Take it if you want it. What really matters here, none of this. It's all default anyway. Pilot settings. This is what a lot of you guys probably want, my pilot keybinds. You can copy what you want, I'll tell you the essentials. You want to bind space to pitch up and control to pitch down. It's actually inverted to what it says here. I have no idea why, but it just is. So I had to bind space to pitch down to make it work correctly. Anyways, it seems to work now. Now, if I could, I would bind my my full map to a side mouse button. I've also removed E from enter exit vehicle so I don't accidentally bail. The rest of that is pretty much default. You want to unbind fire from space so you can actually use it to pitch up. And chase camera, I'd also use a side mouse button for that, but it just isn't working right now. Don't know why. There's one more important one. This one right here. You want to bind your afterburner to W. So you want double bind your throttle up, and afterburner to the same key. And that allows you to spam W in a dogfight for that kind of afterburner tapping we covered earlier in the video. It's really important. I also unbound P from party chat. That's about it. I'll just scroll through these real quick just so no one asks. I think it's all default though, guys. Just in case people are going to ask real quick. Sorry if you don't care. Pretty sure that is all default though. And then extras, obviously nothing there. That is it for the in-game settings. Alright, so now we're here at the desktop. I'm going to show you guys the couple tweaks you can change in the config file just to improve your experience. One of them I heavily recommend, and one of them is more of a preference thing. So you want to go to File Explorer, Documents, Battlefield 2042, Settings, and now you have Prof Save Profile. Before we do this, none of it is bannable. This is all totally fine. I'm going to right click, edit with Notepad++, or if you have Notepad, that also works. So what you want to find is screen safe area height and width. What this does, and a lot of people ask me about it, is it brings the HUD close to the center. I like having a more centered HUD because it's easier to look at. Now I use 0.9 and 0.8, but if you want it to be more centered, you can make the numbers smaller. So like 0.6 or 0.7. Or if you want it to be towards the end of the screen, default value is 1. Now once you're done with that, the setting that I really recommend is using free look sensitivity, making it a bit higher. By default, the value is 1. I've changed it to 15. I think it's 0.5 by default. Either way, I've changed it to 15. This actually allows you to use free look. This option is not present in the in-game settings. You have to go to the config file for it. I have no idea why. Even 15 is a little bit too low. I'm probably going to change it to 25. Now, once you're done with all that, make sure you save and you're good to go. There are some more things you can do. I cover this in my settings video, this kind of stuff here, but we're not going to go over that today. You guys can find that video if you want to. Now, with all that said, I think we're pretty much done here. Hopefully you guys all learned at least a few things, and please, if you did enjoy it, a like really does help with the algorithm. For more 2042 coverage, be sure to sub as well, as there will be no shortage of that on the channel. If you have any of your own tips, you can leave them in the comments. I will be reading the comments on this video. Hopefully you can pick up some good stuff there as well. I tried my best to cover everything, but at the end of the day, we're all still learning. I tried my hardest to master the jets before releasing this video, so hopefully it's good, but a year from now it could be totally different and completely irrelevant. Anyways guys, take it easy, and I'll see you all on the battlefield. Peace.